¿Cómo están? Bienvenidos a una emisión más de CorreoTV. Yo soy Isabel Inclán, presentadora de este programa y editora de Correo Canadiense, el periódico semanario que usted puede encontrar en www.correo.ca. Y bueno, estamos en tiempos de elecciones, en el pico de las campañas, en las elecciones del próximo junio 2, en donde esperamos que muchos latinoamericanos hagan valer su voz a través de su voto. Y hoy tenemos a una candidata del Partido Liberal por la zona, el distrito de York South-Weston. Se trata de Nadia Guerrera del Partido Liberal, candidata a York South-Weston. Nadia, bienvenida.
Gracias por invitarme, Isabel. Es un placer estar aquí con ustedes. Gracias.
Muy bien, y bueno, como pueden ver, ella habla español, lo cual nos da muchísimo gusto, pero bueno, se desenvuelve mejor en inglés y vamos a hacer esta entrevista con los dos idiomas. Nadia Guerrera, bueno, she is a local high school teacher. She found the Education Art Initiative for Youth, Orwell Art, and she's not new in this political process. She ran in 2018 for the electoral district part del high school. Nadia, my first question for you is, how do you feel of being candidate for another riding now? I remember in 2018, you were on the third place. So how do you feel in this new riding candidate?
Well, gracias para la pregunta. Es verdad que ya concurrí en 2018 como candidata liberal en la área de Parkdale High Park. And, you know, it's amazing to be running here in York South-Weston because, Isabel, I live here. Yo vivo aquí. Yo trabajo aquí. I teach high school here. I already serve this community. I serve its students, its families here in York South-Weston. And of course, I have my own family roots here. Both my parents had homes in York South-Weston for much of my life. So I have deep roots here, and it's a real honor to be able to run here. Of course, no podía hacerlo en 2018 porque ya estaba Laura Albanese, que era el ministro de Inmigración. So I wasn't able to run here. I ran in the next riding south in Parkdale High Park, where there was no Liberal incumbent. And I had some roots there as well because I had taught in 3 high schools in Parkdale High Park. So deep roots in the west of Toronto, but it's really an honor to be able to run in the area where I live, where I work, and really just treat this whole approach to running for office and hopefully being able to serve this community as their Liberal MPP as an extension of the public service that I have been doing as an educator for the past 20 years. Son 20 años que trabajo como profesora en colegio. Y para mí, la política es una oportunidad de servir a la comunidad, el público, en otra manera. So it's truly from my heart that I'm running to serve this community where there are so many needs like affordability and so on. But I'm sure you're going to ask me questions about the community.
For sure,
Yes.
Nadia. The Liberal Laura Albanese that you mentioned
Yes.
led the riding York South-Weston for 11 years for Liberal Party. But unfortunately, she lost on 2018. What are you doing to recover this riding from the NDP incumbent Faisal Hassan?
So it's a good question. And to be honest with you, I think that the events of the 2018 election, not just in York South-Weston, but across Ontario, were an anomaly. I mean, we saw the Liberal Party, Ontario Liberals, experience a hard defeat, more severe than any other election in the history of our party. And so here in York South-Weston, which for all of its history, except for 2018, was held by Liberals, with the exception of one 6-month period in 2007, where the NDP held it for after a by-election, but Laura won that back. So for most of the history of this riding, it has been Liberal. And so what happened was some of that Liberal vote collapsed. It didn't go to the NDP. In fact, it actually went to the Conservatives in the wave where Doug Ford came to power. That said, the NDP vote also dropped and they were able to come in. So it wasn't by any means that the NDP vote surged in this riding. It's more that the Liberal vote collapsed. And I have to tell you, going door to door, as I have been doing for a year and a half, you know, when it's safe, because of course, tenemos COVID, hemos pasado un tiempo muy difícil with the pandemic. I wasn't able to knock on the doors every time, but I have been now. And what I'm hearing is that we have a lot of support in this riding. So I don't so much worry about, how do you want to say, it's not just a question of the NDP, it's a question of speaking to progressive-minded voters. It's a question of being able to bring the message about having good, solid local representation, and also being able to speak to the fact that, you know, we don't need Mr. Ford's nephew in this riding. We've never had a conservative here, and I don't think that conservatives are actually going to represent the interests of the people in York South-Weston. And so I think, you know, there's a very warm reception to me at those doors, and they're happy to see somebody else who is from the community, who is dedicated to the community and dedicated to hard work, showing up at their door, because that they're not seeing that in some of the other opponents in this election.
Okay, Nadia, and you mentioned that you live in that riding, York South-Weston. Can you describe a little bit this riding, this area? And I am sure we have some Latin Americans over there, Spanish-speaking people over there. What are the characteristics of this riding and the challenges?
Well, let's put it this way. Sí, hay mucha gente que son hispanos en la área de York South-Weston, and me gusta porque puedo hablar en español con ellos, así como tenemos italianos y muchas personas también que hablan portugués o brasileros o portuguesas, and as well as so many Somalians and people from across Africa and the Caribbean. So I will say that in that sense, York South-Weston is an extremely diverse riding, which gives it its wonderful characters and neighborhoods. You also find a diversity of socioeconomic incomes in this area and realities that people are living with. So you have areas and pockets where there's people with a lot of need, and you have areas and pockets where you have people who've been here owning homes for a very long time. I will tell you this though, there are a lot of seniors in this community. I think we have more seniors residences than any other riding, from what I understand. We also have cooperative living in this community. I think there's 8 co-ops here. So it's quite diverse in terms of who lives here and the way they live here. The thing that I think stands out in York South-Weston to me is that this is a riding where people are hardworking people that go to work every day. They roll up their sleeves like I do, and they work for everything that they have. And they're struggling, Isabel, they're struggling. This riding has always needed an activist type of representation, and it's not going to happen from somebody who just shows up, who doesn't know the community, who hasn't worked hard for a living. And so they need to have somebody who is extremely dedicated to the local realities. And some of those realities include things like affordability. People tell me, I can either afford to pay my rent, Nadia, or I can buy groceries. I have seniors that tell me, I can either pay for my medication, Nadia, or I can pay my heating bill. This is not dignity. This is not dignified, Isabel. And they need to have a fighter, veramente una guerrera que sabe, quiere luchar para ellos en la comunidad. And that's me. Local issues include things like flooding and flood mitigation. There's tons of that happening in the more southern parts of our riding. We've got subway stops coming in along Eglinton Crosstown, thanks to the good representation of Laura Albanese when the Liberals were in government, and the investments made by Stephen Del Duca, who's of course our leader now, but was the transportation minister at the time, who funded those things. And we need to have leadership as we plan those projects with Metrolinx to ensure that we maintain our green space, that people in the community end up having jobs to work on those projects, and we're not just bringing in labor from outside. We should have people from York South-Weston having employment opportunities in the projects going on in their communities. We have issues of housing. So many seniors that can't afford to stay in their home and want to age in the community where they know people, where they have connections, and where they're going to have some quality of life with their neighbors and with their community, rather than being isolated, because we've seen the tolls on mental health. And our young people who have grown up here, who don't want to have to leave this city and this province because of the affordability crisis around homes. And they need to have a local champion, somebody who can bring those very important voices to the legislature and fight for the investments that they deserve. And that's me.
Great. Nadia, in case you win, and we hope so, of course, you win this riding York South-Weston this June the 2nd, what could be your first action for this ride?
First thing I'm going to do is thank every single person that came out, and I'm going to reach out to everybody else and say, whether you voted for me or whether you didn't, I want you to know that I'm here. I'm here to represent you, to listen, para escuchar, para conocerles y veramente para luchar para lo que necesitan. I'm going to stand up there, and I want them to know that doesn't matter who the government is. It doesn't matter whether the Liberals are in government, and I hope they are, because I think that's the best option and the best choice for York South-Weston and for Ontario. But no matter how this election turns out, if I am there, you are going to have a voice that's not just going to be hyper-partisan, but who's going to work across party lines to be able to deliver investments for this community, to be able to bring what we need here. And you're going to have somebody who is going to work just as hard as you work every single day to be able to bring you what you need. And that is my promise. That is the promise I can deliver. I've never been in government before, but my promise is this: I will listen, I will be here, and I will fight. That I can guarantee you.
Okay, Nadia Guerrera, she is the candidate of the Liberal Party for this riding York South-Weston. And finally, Nadia, because we have to finish the program, but finally, how you use your teaching skills in this campaign, in this politics? Can you probably talk about shortly about that, being a teacher and now being candidate?
Sí, es una buena pregunta, gracias. I think it's there's a lot of cross, how do you want to say, use of the skills, because as a teacher, you are there to serve everybody who's in front of you. You are there to listen and read the room and understand what it is people are telling you. I think there's a real humility in that I think people need in their politicians, and they don't always feel. So when I can go to the door with that authentic, really heart towards public service, people feel that, and I think they need it, especially in an age of so much misinformation and cynicism around politics. There's something there that I think touches people and lets them understand that I'm really there and listening. The other thing that's there is that serious commitment towards public service and a real work ethic. A teacher goes to work every day, rolls up their sleeves, and you don't know what is going to happen in a school when you walk in on any given day. You know, learning is going to happen, right? You hope, but anything can go on. Your students can need anything from you. Your colleagues could need anything from you. Parents might need something from you, and you don't know the situation from moment to moment. And so you have to be flexible enough in those moments to be able to respond with compassion, understand that people deserve some kind of dignity in that, and bring that to the way that you respond to people. So I would say compassion, authenticity, work ethic, and that ability to really listen and hear and be flexible. I bring that to everything I do. And I think that that's been really, really important in this race.
Okay, Nadia Guerrera, thank you so much for being here at CorreoTV. We know you are busy. Now you need to take the advance of the last days of this election campaign. and good luck for this day, June the 2nd, and we hope you can recover for Liberal this riding.
Gracias, Isabel. Yo espero así también. Y quiero decir una cosa más, si puedo. Es
Claro
que
sí.
en ese momento, después de la pandemia, y somos 22 años en un nuevo milenio, no solamente un siglo, pero es en este momento que necesitamos un gobierno que verdaderamente crea e investir en nosotros. Eso no es el gobernamiento de Doug Ford y los conservadores, es un gobierno liberal. Y yo soy una guerrera, nací así, soy una guerrera todavía, y yo quiero luchar para el pueblo de York South-Weston. Entonces, gracias por la entrevista, gracias por invitarme, y I hope to see you again soon as the Liberal MPP for York South-Weston.
Yes, for sure. And I would like, of course, to interview as an MPP. Nadia Guerrera, thank you so much and good luck in this election. Thank you so much.
Un placer.
Ok, thank you. Gracias a ustedes y un placer tenerlos aquí. No se pierdan la próxima emisión de Correo TV. Hasta la próxima.